Welcome back, FlashPoint. Our conversation continuing now with Congressman Mike Rogers, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, who joins us from the Capitol building in Washington. Congressman, you mentioned Russia on a couple of occasions there in the previous segment. What's your concern right now about our relationship with Russia? The Olympics are coming up in Sochi early next year. We have this showdown over Edward Snowden, and as you can see right now, our relationship and the agreement level over Syria is miles apart.
Yeah, it's not good right now, and again, they perceive weakness. A quick story, I happened to be there a few years ago talking to a Russian general who was involved in missile defense there. At the end of this meeting, this general told me, he said, "Isn't it good, Congressman Rogers, that you're finally admitting you're a nation in decline, being the United States of America?" They believe that. They passionately believe that. And you can see it with their actions. They just launched a pretty sophisticated nuclear subfleet. We hadn't seen that since the 1990s. Putin is having a ball with this Syria thing. He believes that if we're for it, he's going to be against it. He believes he's the hedge to the U.S. influence in the world. On the good side or the bad side, he doesn't really care. This Snowden thing was designed to poke us in the eye, and by the way, he's, I'm sure, in the loving arms, Mr. Snowden, in comfort with the FSB agents, their intelligence agencies in Russia, learning about how we do things. So he sees himself as winning this debate, and we can't think of it in the terms that we think about it as Americans. You have to look at where he's trying to do. He wants to get back on the world stage. He wants to be an influence. He wants to be somebody to be dealt with. That's why he's supporting a regime in Syria that's just used chemical weapons, we think, for about the 10th time. And so he's supplying them guns and weapons and cash, and he's allowing them to exist and function, knowing that 100,000 people have been slaughtered. Now you just saw 1,000 people with chemical weapons. He believes that's in Russia's national security interests. He's going to push that button.
Do you have any misgivings about American athletes taking part in the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi?
I don't. I have never believed that we should withdraw our athletes from that competition. I think that I just don't believe it. Matter of fact, I'd like them to go and win as many gold medals as they possibly can, and if they can beat every Russian on the track and field, I'm in. Right? I think that's what we ought to do there. But we ought to have to stand up a little bit to the Russians right now. They will take advantage of perceived weakness, and the president, candidly, in the last 5 years, has tried to disengage, and I argue has had an abysmal foreign policy record that we're now seeing the price for that. Syria out of control, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, now that collapsed over. All of those problems, Al-Qaeda on the rise in Iraq and now sending people into Syria. All of the decisions he's made about disengagement and not being interested and not giving and directing foreign policy of the United States, we're paying a price for that today. China telling us, stay out of the South China Sea with your U.S. Navy, a place we've been since we've been a country. All of those things are actions built on the fact that they think that America is in a weak position. That's never a good idea.
Congressman, only got a short, about a minute left here. I quickly want to ask you about where we're headed with the Affordable Care Act. That's the next showdown, obviously, coming. You've got a lot of folks on the other side of this issue saying, look, it is the law of the land, and we've got too many people invested in its failure to give it a chance, because only full buy-in, reaching critical mass, gives the thing a chance to work anyway. What are your thoughts? I've only got about 20 seconds left, but go ahead and take a whack at that.
Well, this thing has been horrible for our economy. It is dragging down the economy. People are losing their health care today because of it. Seniors are having a hard time finding doctors because of it. We better have a public debate. When this bill was passed, it wasn't much of a debate. Supermajority passed it through, rammed it through. They didn't even read their own bill. Now we ought to read it and understand its consequences and stand up for the American people who deserve much better than this.
I got to leave it there. Congressman, thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks.